Okay, seems like most of the people are in. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Civil Series Civil Boss Baby. So, for our topic today is going to be about Project Explorer add-ons for Autodesk Civil 3D and how to manage your Civil 3D dynamics much easier using this newly defined Project Explorer. So, just a quick recap of introductions, who we are. For those who don't know, my name is Jacques. I'm an application engineer specialist in infrastructure department. So today I'm going to run a little bit solo. So just a quick introduction to our sales manager, sales Salome Fourie. She's our infrastructure account manager, which normally deals with all of the licensing as well as pricing for all of the elements. So some of the topics that I'm going to start discussing today is for our boss meeting agenda. We've got our main overview. So some of the topics that I'm going to discuss today is going to be regarding assemblies and accessibility and interface introduction. Where do you get access to this Project Explorer? Because that's the first thing everybody asks me is like, okay, this is something new. Where do I get access to? So I'll showcase how to get those access directly for that Project Explorer and how it works. Then we're going to look into some very interesting elements for road corridor management tools, as well as platform editing and modification tools, as well as we have a nice little capabilities for gravity pipe network enhancement tools inside of this Project Explorer. So, a juicy cookie benefits for the specific Project Explorer. It reduces the project planning time and improvements. So when it comes to redoing work, it's sometimes much easier to manage, as well as managing certain styles or tables inside of our specific Civil 3D models. So we'll have a look at those. Then also what it will do, it will provide more management skills for complex table creations and reporting. And it will also eliminate common errors as a model pre-checking. So I just want to put it out there. Project Explorer is mostly used for the main civil engineer, or even the technicians can actually utilize it to their full benefits. But where it comes in handy the most is when you need to start checking certain elements inside of Civil 3D, which we normally have to do the old-fashioned way. It takes a bit more time. So don't worry about the logistics. I'm going to still do all of those in the next few seconds. So yet again, ladies and gentlemen, before I go into the video systems, just remember, if you've got any questions, please put it in the question and answer chat box. I will answer them at the end of this webinar, because that's where we have our Q&A session. So without further ado, and no wasting of time anymore, we can move on. So where to get access to this Project Explorer? So one thing that we need to do is, if you have an Autodesk account, it is reliable to any of the ones that have an ASC collection, either standalone or networking license. You can simply go into manageautodesk.com and search under your specific profile. If you've got a single-alone or standalone or a network license, you can ask the person to download it. And what we're looking under all projects and services is the Civil 3D Project Explorer. So what it allows you to do is it allows you to download them. So they are currently for 2 versions. Even though it does say 2021, it actually will install it for 2020 as well. To prove that, I'm going to do an example for this today in my Civil 3D on 2020. But this is for 2020 and for 2021, ladies and gentlemen. So it depends on what type of the subscription you have. It works on single-alone or networking license that you have. So jumping back to Civil 3D, how do you get access to this Project Explorer? Well, I've just got a basic idea of a design for a basic roads and piping, which I'm going to utilize for my example, as well as I want to showcase to you, for example, how to do platform designs using this Project Explorer, which comes in handy. So the physical access point for it is under my add-ins. I can simply go to my Launch Explorer, so it's under the Add-ins tab, and open it up. So just to give you a quick overview of this entire workflow, how it's defined. So Project Explorer is an overall summary of all of the data inside of your project. So it picks up, depending on what type of member systems you've got. For example, if there is unique assemblies, alignments, corridors, point groups, surfaces, features line, parcels, pipe network, sample line groups, AutoCAD blocks, and something that we call object sets. So don't worry, we'll talk about those a bit later on. Then we've got our nice little preview inside of that specific element that you select. For example, in this case, these are alignments. So inside, it brings up all of your alignment data. If I zoom through all of these things and scroll them, as well as it provides you a nice little table of content that contains everything of that specific element. For example, the profile of the alignment, any type of data. Now, this comes in handy because when we generate our other elements a bit later on for reports, they are going to be utilized, which just saves much more time. You can customize all of these elements for any specific view window as your own preference. So it's very customizable, and also the displays that you're seeing, you can go modify the scale factors, switch on grids, switch on some of the shading if you want to see those displayed. But if you want to enhance it, you can actually set up certain preferences. So if you want specific coloring systems for unique elements, you can actually go and set them up and according to whatever type of coloring system you want, and scale vertices and grid lines and all of. So all of this can be customized and saved, recreated from new and open and be reused. So your entire company can utilize this. So you can create a nice company template one where it contains all of your details and can be reused over and over again, which is very beneficial. So just to get the cause of it, let's start off with roads. So the first topic is what capabilities do we have in Project Explorer? So I did a few designs already, and it picks up all of my existing alignments, as well as it picks up the alignment for my stormwater, but we'll focus about the piping a bit later on. But for my roads, if I do select, for example, road 1, I can go and add, for example, normally the old convention is when you do modifications to any alignment, it's always a tedious process. For example, if you want to rename anything, you need to go to your alignments, center alignments, go to road 1, and then select properties and give it a new name. Now, in Project Explorer, you can directly change elements. So, for example, if I do want to rename it to something else, I could rename it to that specific value. You can also go and change the styles, as well as it picks up its vertical alignment. So if you made a boo-boo, like I did, I can fix it on the fly, and there you go. Simple and easy. Now, what's very nice about this, it picks up all of the existing data of that specific selected element. For example, this is the profile design for my road 1, and it picks up all of the stations and all of its values. For example, the speed designs, the height, the offsets, the coordinates. Now, this is nice because it can be modified in intervals, so you can specify different intervals for the line intervals, the curve, and the spiral. So it's up to you which one you want to define. Now, this is very critical, as well as the critical layout profile entities. So where I've got my tangents, where I've got my system parabolic curves. If I change it to the alignment, you can see it changes. Now I'm seeing at the actual alignment curve and the line segments for that specific alignment that I did. Especially also, I can also inspect all of its criteria, the radiuses, and so on and so forth. So from a management point, you can actually check everybody's work. And then you can go and also define the alignment PIs. So it says the star curve, and I only have one PI in this design, as well as my super elevation critical stations. Now, everybody can see this is dynamic because if I move it around, the top display showcase there on the top. And this is very critical if I do want to do quick checks for my super elevation design. So managing it is very nice. You can also go and change any of these things under the layout. So if you've got a specific preference, what of the table do you want to see? You can modify it for any type of elements, depending on whatever situation you want. So you can change styles, you can rename them, you can justify them, you can save them, you can open, create new ones, and you can do it for multiple objects. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but don't worry, we'll go into tables a bit later on. But all of this can be customizable to your company's needs. So this is very nice and handy, especially if you've got a specific style that you want to define your tables. So something else that we can do, I'm going to be a more practical engineer. I like to be practical. So in my road design, if I want to do small adjustments, for example, change the lane width of this road 1. This is road 1. And you would think this is going to take a long previous task. First, I need to go find which assembly it is, go to the sub-assembly, go to sub-assembly properties, then go to find the layer width. So let me just drag this over. Go to the parameters, then change the width. And it's such a long process. Now with Project Explorer, we've got a nice little accessibility that makes our life easier. So if I go to, for example, my assemblies, under my assemblies, I can select my assembly, which I did for road 1 and for road 2. They are sharing this specific assembly. And there it defines all of the same assemblies that's inside of my model. Now I can choose whichever one I want, and I'm going to specify a unique baseline. So inside of this, I can see there's the lane super elevation now, and there's the width. As well as all of the other remaining details, I can also modify for the left and for the right. So I've got access to all of it. As well as the associated coordinate regions. So if I'm using the regions, I can go and define where they are and where they start and where they end. Now the beauty about this is if you modify anything inside of this section, it will automatically update. So let me just zoom into that specific road one so everybody can see the changes that I'm going to make. So if I zoom into this, I want to extend this right lane width. So you would think this is going to take forever to do, and all I need to simply do is go to width, click a value, let's say 5 meters, and okay, done. Simple, real quick modification on the fly. Now you can do this for the curb, the lane super elevations, for the actual link slope and to surface, you can go and modify. So it saves a lot of time when it has to do with small little changes inside of Civil 3D. So that's a practical sense of using it in this specific example. It's just changing the layer, the actual layer widths to do small modifications. So let me just change it back. Otherwise it's going to look funky, but just to show you how quickly and easy it updates. Now what's nice about these elements, you can actually take it to the next level. So you do have something that says all of your corridors. So normally your corridors definition and what your corridor consists of has the capabilities. Now instead of using sample lines to see the sections for example, the super elevation, you can actually utilize this corridor baseline that tells you all of your information for that specific corridor. For example, what regions it consists of, what specific elements is required for regards to the corridor feature lines, as well as defining all of its data, where its start station, its end station, and what assembly it uses. You can swap out the assemblies as well from this direction. So you don't need to go back to the corridor and go to corridor properties like we used to do. So you can actually go define all of them from the same location. Very nice. So there's a bit more functionality to this. You can actually go and define different stations. So if you want to see if your super elevation takes into effect, now I've got specific one region and selection. If I select the overall one, the main baseline, I can see the entire road section. So instead of creating sample lines, doing the sections, I can already pre-inspect my designs without having those. And what's nice about it, you can actually go and add link codes, point codes, shape codes, and assembly names. So let's add point codes. I want to see where my ETWs is on the system. So as soon as I do that, you can see it highlighted as yellow colors on each side. You might have noticed something. If I contract control on that specific station, you can see in my model, it actually highlights that position. So Project Explorer has a few shortcuts that you can actually zoom to and highlight elements. So it jumps to that specific design data. That's why it's very practical to use this as a project management type. So this is very nice, but you can do multiple. You can have ETW, you can have crown as well. And if I can see the crown coding, I can see all of those as well. And what's nice about it, you can actually compare elements inside of this. For example, if I want to see where my final surface design, there is a little dash, tiny little line that indicates the NGL. Now, depending on where you change it, you can see it changes the section and that updates the files. But if I choose NGL, because NGL I want to compare existing versus previous, you can see it now indicates my NGL surface directly as well. So this is very nice, instead of going and recreating all of these elements. So the old-fashioned way, what you actually have to do with these things, you literally have to go to the corridors, as well as if you want to rebuild, you need to do it from this side. Now, inside of this corridor command, we've got a rebuild all corridors command that does all of the rebuild automatically for you. You can also select and shift and select a few other options to rebuild out to date or rebuild all corridors. So this saves a lot of time when it comes to rebuilding corridors. So then those will be rebuilt directly from this point instead of going one by one and saying rebuild automatically. So this is very unique, specifically for roads, but we're not limited to just roads. What say, for example, do I have with feature lines and surfaces? So we have an option where we can create feature line from objects, as well as you have the option to define surfaces. So with surfaces, there's one nice tool that I like about this. Instead of going to the surface, you can simply go pick up all of your surfaces from this directory. Instead of going to surfaces, going to a specific surface, surface properties, and change the surface style, which takes a bit of time. In Project Explorer, you can have this open on a second screen and just change it by changing the style. It's all convenience. So this is very nice, and you can see how in-depth it is. As soon as I change the style, it updates, and there, Bob's your uncle, I've got my contours. Very nice, very easy. And then if we want to go to feature lines, you still have the same capabilities to convert any element. So if I say create a feature line from an object, so where this comes in handy is if I've got platform designs and I want to grab this feature line, I just go through the same settings, assign the elevations, set up from final surface design or any compare. I just want levels. So what it does, it takes that polyline and converts it to a feature line. And from that rich feature line, we can see now it actually pinpoints a long section for that specific platform. So what I can do is I can still compare this to anything else. For example, if I want to compare it to a road, let's say, for example, I think that one road is road 3. Yeah, it's road 3. So I want to compare it to a road 3's profile design. So what I can do is if I go select the road, go to road 3, I can specify, for example, any of those elements. Now, if I want to see the vertical alignment for that specific element, there it is. It's already a comparison. So it saves me a lot of time when it comes to designing specific levels. I could also specify a surface. So let's say, for example, I want to see the NGL. In comparison, you can see it's very close in following because remember, I changed the feature line and specified to have the same levels as the natural grounding. But here's the beauty. All of these elements can be modified. So if I select any of these elements, I can modify the specific height or elevation in this specific requirement. So what's nice about this is if I decide to change the change in slope, I can actually do that without the ease of hassle. I can also withhold the first direction and identifying the set edit grades. And I can specify, for example, either in percentage or a slope and grade rise over run. So you have these capabilities and it will actually do that. So it saves you a bit of time if you know exactly what you're doing. So you can define any levels that you require. So, and it's nice and graphical to see you exactly where those points are. Instead of selecting your feature line, going to your elevation editor, then go to elevation tools and then modify. That's the old fashioned way to do it. Now with Project Explorer, you can check all of your designs or somebody else's designs as well. But what about points? So point management. If I want to generate a few points on this feature line. So if I go to points, point creation tools, just choosing a different, let's say, measure an object, select a feature, which is my feature line. And as soon as I do that and I specify a few points, there we go. Now, if I want to manage these points, the old-fashioned way is you need to go to your point groups, add probe, all points, and then modify the settings. Now, with Project Explorer, I can go and navigate to this, go to my point groups, and there you would see it has now accessed all of the points. Now, there I can specify unique point styles, or I can add new groups from this directory, create blocks, add filters, and also compare to other elements. So you have these capabilities to go define all of these systems directly. So what's nice about this is if I go to my point styles, I can say point style cross, circle with a cross, and I can go define them. I can specify a unique point style, specify the names, define the number, let's say number styles, and it will automatically manage all of those directly. So as soon as I see that, you can see all of those has been generated with ease. Then you also have parcels, so you've got more control when it comes to parcels itself. So under parcels, we can actually go define them. For example, I did hide mine, so I had catchment areas inside. So let me just switch them on my layer properties. So if I go switch on and navigate to those specific layers which I switched off. So let me just go down, 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 down. I'm looking for my parcels. Oh, there we go. I unfreeze them, and there you can see it actually adds the tags. Let me just put the segments. So if I just go down to the segments, unfreeze those, and there are my parcels, which is very nice because inside of Project Explorer, it will already define, for example, the areas, the parameters, and I can also change any of the labels. Anything in purple, you can actually modify, but we're not limited to just these. We've got actually for pipes. So if you've got pipe elements, so I did have a few stormwater designs in this specific example. So how would you go in about and using these elements? So inside of Project Explorer, it picks up all of your structures, all of your pipes, as well as all of the pipe runs. So now you might be asking, Jacques, how can I modify this to my specific needs? So what we can do is we can actually do some unique changes. So if I choose between manual to manual, so let me just specify, I'm looking for manual 6 up to, I don't know, let's say manual 1. So that's the run. That's first one that we're looking at. So it tells me the information and gives me a nice little hatch that indicates where my cover setting boundaries are. Now, these cover setting boundaries are linked to your pipe codes as well as the pipe rule styles. So that's where it defines this minimum and maximum covers due to the rule styles. So you might be asking, then what else can I do with this? This is now very nice. It displays them. But what we can do is we can customize these things as we see fit. So when it comes to pipes, we can actually go and define. Let me choose a different area. Let's make it just smaller up to manual 4. So that's manual 4. And let's say, for example, I want to change or regrade or change any of these elements of these 2 pipes. I can simply select the 2 pipes in this tabular format here at the bottom. So if I go select for part number 4, part number 5, you can see it highlights. The same for the structures. So if I select one of the structures, structure 6, it highlights. As well as if I want to see for manual 5, you can see it highlights inside of this section and gives you all of those details. So how to use this practically? So let's say, for example, I want to select both of those 2 pipes and I want to modify something of it. You can either go change the slope directly from this position and define your slopes. So you can customize, instead of going to the pipe properties and change the slope, you can directly do that from here. So something else that we also can do is we can do multiple pipe grading. So for example, if I select these 2 pipes and I want to edit the pipe run here on top. So if I say edit pipe run, I can specify which element to hold an elevation, the end or the start. And I can also specify the whole pipe elevation by inverts and define all of the values. For example, what slope do I want? Do I want a certain pipe run? Do you want to specify levels? You can go and define all of those settings from this location. So if I specify 1 in 50, it's about 2%. It automatically adjusts those pipes. And Bob's your uncle. Boom! It regrades your entire system for that specific 2 pipes that I selected. Remember, if you select for the entire network, it will change for the entire network. Now, I still see I've got restrictions and it gives me warnings. It tells you there's the minimum pipe cover system is not set. So what you can do is you can go right click and say set constant depth cover for pipes. So what this setting actually does is it allows you to identify the constant pipe depth. Let's say, for example, 1 meter. And there you can see it adjusts it. So this comes in very handy, but I noticed that my structures is left behind. So you might be asking, how can I update those? You simply go to the structures and choose the structures of interest that you're looking for. So I'm select these 2. If I right click, there's an option where you can set up description, surface styles, rule styles, as well as set auto surface adjustment. So that's the one that we're going to use to set up these things so it automatically updates as soon as I change into my pipes. As soon as I do that, I'm going to say auto surface adjust. I'm going to say yes. And there it auto adjusts those inverts for that specific. The other one is still linked to the other pipe. So if I just go to the next manual, let's say manual 3, you can see that low point is somewhere over there. That's why he didn't update. But if I wanted to update, I can modify it and just change those settings directly. So you've got full access to all of these elements to go and change them. But here comes the beauty part. If I want to change anything, it's simply by selecting the elements and then defining what I want to change. That's simply how easy it is. So let's just do one more example. There we go. And now I've noticed that this invert is still not changed. Now remember, Civil 3D and Project Explorer is very clever. Even if I try and I want to go change any of these auto surface adjustments, if I do say yes, you will see nothing happens. The reason why is because it picks up there's an existing part coming into that manual. So you can't make mistakes. When it comes to actually defining them inside, it will pick up that one of the pipes are using the other one on the other side, even if you try overriding it over and over again. So it's very clever when it comes to this. So if I do show you, it's actually picking up this one pipe coming into this manual. So it's picking up that invert level of that specific pipe. It's coming in. That's why the structure is not updating. So it reduces a bit of time and management. So that's actually the proper way of inspecting your elements. Now, this is all very nice and dandy, if you want to put it in that way, for actually doing modifications. You can also go set up unique preferences. So if you want to see this visibility, so let me just do a simple example. Let's change it to green. I want to see specifically a different color. You can see these are very accessible and easy to manipulate. The same for the pipes. You can go and give them unique colors inside of the preferences as well as the pipe runs. So it tells you all of the pipe runs and the pipes which is confined inside of your model. So just to change this back to manual 6, because I still want to show you some awesome stuff. So if I go to my manual 1 and define those, so now you might be asking, what happens if I want to swap something? So here comes the juicy stuff. We can actually swap parts from this location. So if I'm not satisfied with the 450, I want to change multiple, I can just right click, and then there's an option I can say swap parts. So if I, for example, want to make it, let's make it a little tinier so everybody can see the changes. I change it to manual 4. I want to go and swap pipe 4, and pipe 5. And if I go right click, there's an option where I can say swap parts. Hallelujah. So I say swap parts, and it will actually swap those parts to whatever pipe system I've got inside of my catalog. So if I go to my catalog, let's go change it to, I don't know, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's say, okay, we wanted 600 mils. Bob's your uncle, boom, he swaps them out. Normally, you should have gone to each individual one and swapped them. From this location, you can swap multiple. Isn't that nice? That's really nice. So that's a very nice feature that I personally enjoy, especially doing stormwater designs for a few years. So it saves a lot of time when it comes to modifying elements after they've been analyzed. You could still run them and change any of the values for the entire run and define those values. So you've got a lot of more control when it comes to designing insert levels or slopes for your pipes, which is a very big benefit. So something else that we can start discussing is, if I do have, like, for example, more stormwater, sometimes what we like to do is we like to go and report these things to tables or labels or object sets. So object sets is we're going to talk in a bit. For a quick report, if I want a quick structural report, I can have a name and I can specify what type: a CSV, a PDF, a doc file, a RTF, an Excel file. We can actually go and define whatever file type you are looking. You can also go and modify the layout styles, how those reports will look like, or edit the report style. But basically what's inside of your table there is going to be showcased inside of your Excel file or your PDF file. This can be managed using the edit report style. So if you want to be fancy, you can set up a unique paper size, set up the headers. You can go and define a certain font, specify the column widths, the cell margins. You can even add your detailed reports data. You can add your company's logo. You can basically customize this thing as you see fit, like a normal report that you would do in Civil 3D without going through all of the hassles. It's all here. As well as the last report header, you can go define. So you can customize this, save them, and reuse them for your company. You can create multiple and reuse them, and so on and so forth. You can also go and define, like I mentioned, let's make a CSV file just to show you. If I say OK, and it will generate a CSV file. So let me just select over this one. I'm going to copy it over, just replace it, say yes. Yes, let's go, report generate, and then it opens up the Excel. So all of that data inside of that specific table has been now added to your CSV file. Now remember, you can customize all of these data, what you want to see, if you want to see certain elements, by simply going to layouts. So layouts will allow you to define unique elements, and you can specify, for example, if you want just for pipes or structures or rules or runs, you can tick whatever you want and you can give it a different name. So for example, if you're not happy with pipe name, you could actually change it. You can say pipe style, you can give it. So let's, for example, let's give it the other name. Let's say pipe name. And let's call this STW for stormwater. And okay. Now you might notice that name has changed in the table because it's all customizable. So what's nice about this is if I now export this, that's exactly what I'm going to see. The same can be done for your structures. So if I do, for example, do it to the structure list, it will bring them out and set the parts list the same system. So it will export those. Then we've got also more options. If you don't like using, you can actually do the Autocad tables inside. So if you want to do Autocad tables, you can add one for structures as well as for pipes. Now it works the same principles. If you say you want a table inside of the system, you can set up them and simply just say, okay. Then it's going to ask you to select a location where to place this table. Now this is normal Autocad tables. So if I place somewhere over here, it's going to showcase that same tables inside of Project Explorer into your model. So it tells you this is the structural style, this is the pipe reference, and like I mentioned, all of this can be customizable. Ooh, sorry. Let me just go and zoom in a little bit. I accidentally typed ZE for zoom extent. So there we go. So it brings in all of those tables. Now this is just for structures. Now one thing I need to mention, doing it this method is not dynamic. There is another way of doing it. But let's say, for example, let's do a practical example. Let's say, for example, I want to swap one of the pipes. And I want to show you this because I know everybody's going to ask me questions about it. So if I go right click and say AutoCAD tables for the pipe, so I'm not going to give it a specific name. I'm just going to do it. And let's place it somewhere on top of the structures. So somewhere over here. So if I zoom into this table, you might have noticed there it picks up all of my pipe names and there's all of the pipe sizes. So look carefully at pipe number 4. So if I go back to my Project Explorer and let's say, for example, we want to change it from a 600 to something else. I'm going to say swap part. Go to the whatever I want. So let's decide, let's change it to, I don't know, let's make it a 900. So as soon as I do that, you might have noticed it picks up over here in 900, but it does not update my table. Now, you might be wondering why this is happening, because if you right click on using an AutoCAD table, it's just a quick table. If you want it to be dynamic, you need to go and actually add it to the object set. Now, object set is a bit more educated. So it has a dynamic link between the two. So if I say object set actions, I want to create either export AutoCAD tables in model space or in paper space, you have that option. So it's up to you which one you want to use. Let's choose model. And then I can specify a unique location where to place it. And of course, this needs to be dynamic. So I want a dynamic. And I can utilize by specifying pick insertion point. Now, as soon as I do that, I can go define it in, let's say, for example, somewhere over here. And there it sets up the coordinates for it. So it will automatically generate it at that point. And it will be dynamic. So there's some other settings we can set up, but I'm just going to say OK. And OK again. And there you can see we have the new table with that 900. But now I'm going to show it that it does actually update. If I go back to my table, go to swap parts, and let's choose a bigger size. So let's say, for example, let's decide 1,200. So there I can see it updates. And now my table is also dynamic. So what the beauty about the object set is you can still add more stuff. You can remove it. You can add more pipes. You can add structures. And of course, the big secret, everything is dynamic. So you can add and remove elements, delete elements, compare elements, and all of those details you can see in the bottom table. So you've got full access to all of this. So this is very nice. Then something else I want to still mention. If I still go to my stormwater and right click, there's also an option that says quick export to 2D AutoCAD DWG file. So this is the best way if you want to export stuff from Civil 3D, because he will explode them for you and they will bring in actual line segments. Instead of doing it in normal Civil 3D, it takes a bit of a process. This is much easier. So if you've got specific, for example, that specific pipes. So if I want just specifically that pipes exported, I can export it as line segments. So as soon as I do that, I'll just give it a few seconds. And as soon as it runs, I can just minimize this. There you can see it picks up specifically those pipes that I specified in the manuals. And if I look very closely, there are individual elements. So they are basically line work. So if I've got line work there, you can see it's normal lines. If I go to properties, it's lines with colors, and it actually picks up all the layers. So this is a quick way of exporting things to AutoCAD without losing capabilities inside of Civil 3D. This is if you want to specify unique stuff inside of it. So this applies to roads and all of the existing elements inside of Project Explorer. Phew. So something else that we need to still talk about is you have that option to export to AutoCAD, but you might be asking, Jacques, what about data shortcuts? Is there anything specific? So unfortunately with data shortcuts, you can't manage where they are linking. However, you can actually go and define, for example, what needs to happen if you want to bring in a data shortcut into this pipe network, for example, with the stormwater. So let's say, for example, I want to add a sewer network. So I've got a sewer design on a different drawing, and I want to do a data shortcut of it. So if I want to bring that inside of my Project Explorer demo file, I just generate a normal data shortcut. So let's just create a data shortcut. Say set data shortcut. I'm going to call it sewer. Yeah, it's fine. And I want to add it to that pipe network. So if I go say create data shortcut, and then I select the network sewer, and okay, there I've got my shortcut. Now, if I go and define this in my Project Explorer demo, you can see the sewer. I can go and add. Oops, let me go down. Sorry. And let me just set up my data shortcut. So to say data shortcut, I'm busy in sewer, and there it picks up all of my pipe network sewer. If I right click, I can say create a reference, and what it will do is it will actually allow. Let me just select the parts list and say okay. So it brings in now that specific as a data shortcut. So I'm responsible for the sewer, but I want to see this the stormwater. I want to see the sewer guy's design. So that's why I'm doing the data shortcut. So we'll just give it a few seconds to bring it in. Now, the reason why I'm showing this to you, because I want to show you what you can do with the sewer once it's been brought in. So there you can see I've got my sewer network inside. So when it comes to managing data shortcuts, we only can actually see the network inside of our Project Explorer from using the data shortcuts tools. So for example, if I go to Project Explorer, there you can see it picks up the sewer, but the icon has changed. It has a data shortcut. So you can still see all of the elements, but the only thing is you can't edit them. So for example, if I choose between certain manholes, you can't modify them, unfortunately, because yet again, it's not your work. That's why the swap parts option is set up. And also I can't edit the pipe run because yet again, it's not your work. It's the sewer designs engineer's work. So I just wanted to showcase to you, that's what we actually have in regards to data shortcuts. But for stormwater, you can go and modify if it's your own work. If you let's create the sewer on its own, it will actually pick up all of those. So when it comes to data shortcuts, we are only limited to that, and it's actually seen fair, and you can still go and generate different tables for all of these. You can zoom to, there's a lot of tools that we can use in more depth, as well as go to the pipe network properties from this location. So managing all of these things is much easier using Project Explorer than doing it the normal Civil 3D way. So there's a lot of benefits. You can jump between, for example, if I select sewer design, you might have noticed this Project Explorer updates to that specific drawing. And now in that drawing, I've got a specific network like sewer, and there I can go and modify and change any of the actual sewer. So you can have this on a separate screen, and you could just jump between the drawings, and it will update the Project Explorer what's inside of that specific drawing of yours. And you have access to all of those details. So you could never ever close Project Explorer really. You can have it open and manage everything. So this is very nice tools that we can have and have now with Project Explorer. So the big question, how do we manage our civil projects? We manage them as a boss. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are more interested in more webinars of ours, so this is just a quick overview of Project Explorer. We still have got a few previous city series webinars that everybody can have a look at. So if you missed a few sessions, there was a session 1 and a session 2. This is now session 3 actually. So you are more than welcome to follow our website page or go to our YouTube channel that you can actually go and have a look at most or more of those specific webinars, or our channel, where this one will also be recorded and saved to our YouTube channel, which you can actually rewatch, but we can give you access to that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, my favorite part, is there any questions? So there are some frequently asked questions that I do cover. So first things first, for those who don't or might have missed the first part, does Project Explorer available for Civil 3D 2020? Yes, it is. 2020 and 2021. Where can I install Project Explorer? So Project Explorer is available for subscriptions of AFC Collection. It's available in accounts.autodesk.com or manage.autodesk.com or via Autodesk desktop app. And where do I get more information about licensing, pricing, training, and live demonstration for Devatech, IDAS, or any of the Autodesk Civil 3D products or any other products of Autodesk? Please contact Salome, our infrastructure account manager, which she will be happy to assist, and we will get back to you regarding to your inquiries. So, ladies and gentlemen, is there any specific questions? So there was one question. I see you're recording the webinar. Will that be available later? Yes, it is. It's going to be either on our YouTube, but we can also send you a link that goes directly to that webinar, or you can just look at our webpage again and re-register and re-watch. Okay, guys, any more questions? Okay, seems like there's not a lot of questions today, guys. I wanted to be a boss. But guys, like I said, feel free, if you still got more questions, you're more than welcome to email us and we will jump and assist. From my side, thank you once again for joining this webinar. Okay, yes, actually, sorry, here's a nice good question. So Eric has a nice question. Can we get more InfraWorks webinars? This is a very interesting. Let me put it in this way. Let's make an open discussion. What do you like to see in a webinar for InfraWorks? Do you want to see how it works? You want to define the bridges? You want to see the roads, traffic simulation? What's there? There's so much. The integration between elements from Civil 3D, going to InfraWorks, InfraWorks Civil 3D to Revit. I think that's one part that we did on Civil Series number 1. It was the integration between Revit structures, Revit structures and Civil 3D was the first one. So if you've got inquiries or you want specific webinars, you're also more than welcome to email us. Then we will start generating one. So if there's specific topics, you guys are more than welcome to actually send us through what you'd like to see, and then we'll jump on it. So yeah, we can specify InfraWorks webinars. You just need to maybe just give me an overall idea of what you guys want to see. We did a few. There's more webinars that we did already on InfraWorks. If it's not the city series, you can actually have a look at, what was the other ones called? There was Partners in Crime as well. There was our BIM 360 elements. Building Bridges event, we had one that was specifically for InfraWorks and the bridges. So yeah, we can still have a look into many ones. It's really up to you guys what you like to see. But we will conduct, like I said, you're more than welcome to email us and then we'll generate something for you. And then we'll make it a big thing. Okay. So guys, last few seconds before, is there any more questions? Okay. So guys, from my side, once again, thank you for joining our webinars today. And good luck out there and hope to see you guys next time. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, be a boss. All right, guys, take care.